Panel, I'm really excited to hear more about gross national happiness, and he'll explain the concept too. John's very humble and usually wants me to say very little, but I want to say a few things. John de Graaf is the executive director of the Take Back Your Time campaign. He's also a documentary filmmaker. A couple of his films are Affluenza, The All-Consuming Epidemic, and What's the Economy For Anyway, which screened here at Green Festival last year. That was that its premiere? Yes. Here, last year, the premiere of that. And more than 15 of his programs have been broadcast on primetime national PBS stations. He's also an activist and is leading efforts right now on this on the National Vacation Initiative and also on this Gross National Happiness campaign. So please welcome John de Graaf.
Thank you, Jenny, and thank you all for being here. This is pretty exciting, and I'm looking forward to having you hear all of the folks that we've got on this panel and hopefully have a little conversation as well. You know, happiness is hot these days. You've probably noticed that there are books galore and conversations galore about this whole idea of happiness all over the country. In fact, in the last year and a half alone, there have been 27,300 and some separate academic articles and papers written about the subject of happiness. In the previous 8 years, there were about 800 of them written. So that gives you an idea that this is kind of a hot thing. And the question to some degree is where does this interest come from and where did it start? And so I want to just tell you for a moment where it started, how it started. Once upon a time, in a faraway and exotic country, a 16-year-old boy assumed the throne upon the death of his father, and he started out in his quiet way to change the world. That once upon a time wasn't so long ago. It was 1972, and the country was the little Himalayan kingdom of Bhutan, home to about 750,000 people, tucked away between these big giants, India and China, and east of Nepal in the Himalayas, a land of beautiful green valleys and huge snow-covered mountains. And the king's name was Jigme Wangchuck, and the first thing that he proclaimed as king was gross national happiness is more important than gross national product. You know, kids say the darnest things. So if it had been here in this country and we'd heard this kind of comment, I think there would have been some polite laughter and a collective yawn, and people would have gone about their business again. But the people of Bhutan respect their king. They take their king very seriously, and they were interested in putting into practice what the king was talking about, gross national happiness. So in the last 30-some years, the people of Bhutan have invited experts from all over the world to help them figure out what makes people happy, how you measure happiness, what kind of policies can help promote happiness, and so forth. Bhutan has even enshrined the concept of gross national happiness into its constitution. It became a democratic constitutional republic just 2 years ago, and it's part of the constitution. And Bhutan has a gross national happiness commission. And so I am delighted to invite to speak here the commissioner, the secretary of the Gross National Happiness Commission of Bhutan, our very esteemed guest here in Seattle, Mr. Karma Tshiteem. And I hope you will all give him a warm Seattle welcome. He's going to tell you a little bit about how Bhutan does all of this and measures happiness and what it's doing to make people happier. And so just want to welcome Karma Tshiteem.
Good evening. Thank you all very much for being here so that I can share what Bhutan is trying to do. My name is Karma, and I work for the Royal Government of Bhutan. And my organization, the Gross National Happiness Commission, is a central government agency that identifies national priorities, allocates resources, sets targets, coordinates, monitor, evaluate policies and programs. So when I'm talking about gross national happiness, I'm talking about what the Royal Government of Bhutan is doing on a day-to-day basis. And basically, I thought I'll just take you through 3 parts, given time limitations. I'll talk briefly about what is gross national happiness, what these indicators are, and how we are going about using it. So what is gross national happiness? Basically, gross national happiness is a development approach that seeks to achieve a harmonious balance between material well-being and the spiritual, emotional, and cultural needs of an individual and society. And I personally find it is best described in the words of His Majesty the present King. That is, gross national happiness has come to mean so many things to so many people, but to me it signifies simply development with values. So basically, gross national happiness is a guiding vision for the country. And since the Constitution required us under Article 9.2 that the end objective of our development must be the attainment of gross national happiness, we, policy-making body, we had to set about making some indicators, because if you do not have something to measure, then you cannot manage it. And that is how the whole work on the Gross National Happiness Index began. And what was the idea behind this? The idea was very much to capture the vision our king had. So we set out to find a set of indicators that captures the common aspirations of the Buddhist people. And our idea was, once we identify those indicators that captures the common aspirations, then find out what it is the government can do in terms of creating the right conditions so that people can lead a meaningful and hopefully happy lives. So this is the work we set out to do. And basically what we plan to do is that the indicators will be used almost like a compass to guide our country's development as we navigate all the complex development choices that will be there before us. We'll also be using the indicators to draw attention to areas that need to be addressed, and thus you could say it will be almost used as a basis for allocating resources as evidence for decision making. Also, related to the Gross National Happiness Index, we made some policy and project selection tools. And the idea was to make some tools which we can use almost like a lens, almost like a screen, to filter new policies that are being made. Since indicators are mostly exposed after the event, we needed something which we can use to assess policies before they are formulated. So we also formulated these tools. And the idea very much is we made these indicators, and we will carry out survey every 2 years on these indicators to see where the government is in terms of meeting the aspirations of the Buddhist people.